So for next session, we're going to be talking about where NFTs matter. And we have Konstantin back for this session. I think this is going to be really, really interesting. Konstantin, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you, Carlos, and welcome everyone again from my side. I will be here with you today for the next 30 minutes approximately, and we will talk about the NFT topic. I believe NFTs are generally super exciting as a field of research, as a field of what will be next, and it's definitely one of the hot topics already as well right now. So without further ado, let's start into. First of all, what we will be going through today. There'll be 7 multiple points, starting from NFT core concepts, NFT properties, and NFT anatomy. Then we'll investigate into existing and new application areas, available tools, and where to learn more about NFTs and about IPFS and Filecoin for better their utilization. But this session is designed in order to be motivating for you as a participant to come up with new projects connected to the NFTs. And I'm generally open to any kind of questions, so feel free to post them in the chat. And closer to the end of the session, I will touch on base on those as well. So feel free to also put the questions directly in the chat, and we'll see if I will be able to also manage them during the talk. So without stopping, let's start with the NFT concept. So first of all, what's NFTs? NFTs are non-fungible tokens, where non-fungible means that anything only exists once and cannot be easily replicated with an identical item. If you think, for example, a guitar, which is signed by an author, it becomes an authentic, and there is only a limited number of copies in there. So this is kind of the same with non-fungibility of tokens, where each single token is unique and couldn't be easily replaced with something else. Secondly, the token itself, for us, it's a record of information, a record in a blockchain system, and it provides you with a different functionalities, such as ability to perform an operations. So starting with an NFT simple, NFT simple is essentially a unique non-interchangeable unit of data, which is associated with a digital or physical asset and could be stored on a digital ledger, such as blockchain, and could be owned, sold, and traded. That's what it means for us as developers. So for us, we are thinking about NFTs as a completely new type of file format. It could be essentially anything, and it's native to the blockchain system which we're using. It's becoming a native primitive, enabling us to use it for different functionalities, enabling us to store different types of data, but it will be always working in the same way as we expect, regardless of what's happening inside. The best application of it is, or not the application, but rather the way to manage the NFT in this case is mainly by smart contracts on the chain, which allow us to do multiple automated systems or solutions and come up with the different use cases based on what you exactly want to do. So in order to understand what we can build with NFTs, it makes sense to think from the properties perspective. What properties does an NFT has? So there are 6 properties which kind of define what NFT it is, and they are uniqueness. NFTs are provably scarce. They have a guaranteed ownership. They're transferable, they're fraud-proof, and they're indivisible. And let's dive into each of these properties in detail in order to have a better understanding how they work and which use cases do they bring up to us. So first of all, the uniqueness. Uniqueness is essentially a representation of a digital object, and it could be either a digital copy of a physical product, or it could be completely digital, meaning it doesn't have any replication in a physical world. So the property of uniqueness gives us multiple primary uses. Obviously, we already have right now art in all its forms available for everyone on the web. NFTs allows us to also store it and replicate and validate that it's unique, we have it, and there is no such copy as the one we have on our ownership. On the right-hand side, you, for example, see Ether Rocks, which was one of the first NFTs ever created on Ethereum network. I think there is only 100 of those, and there is no way you can create a new one. So owning those are kind of a owning a history of Ethereum, but also they are quite expensive at right now on the market. So it also represents some digital value. Though not only art in all its forms is the main use of NFTs, it also could serve great for validation of intellectual property and representation of a legal agreement. Anything from legal contracts, insurance contracts, and so anything which needs to be unique and tailored to a specific person could be also represented by an NFT. So the next element is provably scarce. This allows us to, first of all, trace the origin of NFT. We have accountability on NFT, and we can control the supply of the NFT we created. What does it mean for us is that we, at any point of time in the blockchain, we know how many NFTs there are already created. We can trace who created a certain NFT, and we can account and control the production of them. What gives it us as an opportunity is mainly the collections, which are already have a broad representation in the blockchain, and everyone kind of see it as a use case. Also, the limited editions are the use cases, but traceability also gives us a huge potential for the legal market, where you need to be sure where a certain item comes from, or what are the certain properties and why they are inherited from this specific contract. The next quality is guaranteed ownership. Guaranteed ownership in this sense means that the ownership features are inherited from the blockchain system on which the NFT is being stored. Mostly it will be somehow either ERC token straight away, like ERC 721 or 1155 standards, or it will be just generally some standard which everyone inherit and replicate. So it always have the same properties and we know how to interact with them. So together with this, we can also provide the data verification on-chain, and we can verify that a certain NFT belongs to us and all the information is valid and could be traced by anyone on the chain. It also serves as a digital proof of the asset in many cases. And for example, Uniswap V3 right now uses the NFTs to showcase the amount of money you stacked for yielding. The primary uses of guaranteed ownership property is definitely DeFi applications and all its variations, where you need to be sure that you're owning something. DeFi is the first place where it could be used. All other legal use cases, and one interesting case in the real world that's happening right now is collateral NFTs, where NFTs are being considered as a digital asset. It could be used for you to take the loans, take the money from the physical banks, and maybe used for a mortgage and some other financial instruments. The next element is a transferability of an NFT. As NFT becomes more and more widespread, it also becomes a new medium of an exchange. It's ownable and tradable, and therefore all kinds of open markets are appearing to supply demand, to support the supply and demand of NFTs and enable users to trade it and find the way to exchange them. So primary uses there are obviously the asset management with on-chain record, where you want to be sure that a certain item belongs to you on the chain. You have your ownership or it attached to your wallet, and any kinds of applications where you want to be sure that you have something and you can trade it. That's where it becomes super important, and that's where a lot of use cases appearing for the NFTs. As I already said, there are a lot of also IP rights representation. For example, you can think about the property management through the NFT as a use case, where you can have an NFT of your legal contract or your rental contract, and then transferring it on chain automatically also transfers, or you can sell it on the chain, but all the records of the property and the history of it would be recorded, and therefore ensuring your security, and you effectively can control your property through the blockchain. And the next item is the fraud-proof quality of an NFT. Essentially, security features are also inherited from the blockchain, where you have your own wallet and only you have the access to it with your secret password. And that's everything for managing the NFTs is also depend on your wallet and your access to it. So no one can directly steal your information or steal your NFT without you being in charge of that, or your information being stolen and misused. But generally, all the security proofs which you have on blockchain also effectively being represented in the NFTs. You store all the information on chain, and you generally manage your NFTs through smart contract operations. Primary uses here are as well asset management and DeFi applications, where you need to have an additional letter of security and understanding for others how certain NFTs work and deal in the real world and in the digital world. And the last item is indivisibility, which also guarantees you that if you have issued, for example, 100 NFTs, you will have 100 NFTs by the end of the life cycle of a blockchain. So here we are having also indivisibility allows us to create NFTs which are ready for collection. They by design would be able to retain the same value or retain the same properties as they were intended by the author. And also they provide there are new ongoing trend happening right now with fractionalization. While you have an original NFT which is maintained to be indivisible, you can now fractionally have a subcontract which enables multiple users to have a piece of your original NFT, which could have many great use cases. For example, real estate management, where there is an NFT which represents a whole house, and fractional NFT ownership could be a representation of owning a flat inside of a house, while you can use all of the features of an NFTs to actually manage your rental property, lend it, and do other things which are common to be done in the real estate world. In order to, the next step of understanding how to work with NFT is essentially understanding how it's built inside. And under the NFT anatomy, I mean not the image which is provided by Alibaba with different NFT systems, but rather the general NFT on the blockchain consists of three main elements. There are assets, there is metadata, and there is a smart contract which allows you to manage it. Let's go step by step. When we create an NFT, we really need to think about where we store the data, where we store the asset. There are a lot of examples on the web where people were misusing the initial NFTs. For example, there is a very common story of neither confirmed rug pull story, where a guy sold some NFTs with digital avatars on the left. But the problem was that over the last time, or he decided to change the NFTs in the background, and where the NFTs were pointing initially were just some web address, and he switched all the NFT avatars of NFTs some people bought and were owning to just images of the rugs, which was unfortunate for the buyers, but they couldn't do anything about it since the record of the NFT was already fixed on the blockchain, and the pointer was to a random website where any person could change the object to which the NFT is pointing on without the control of the owner. So a great story to learn is do not record assets as the pointers to the website on the server, and this opens us to a question: what's actually the way to store the NFT in order for it to be immutable and others will not be able to change it. So we want to have a content persistency for an NFT. But traditionally, all traditional web links in the internet tend to be rotting. An average lifespan of a link on the web is around a year. So there is no consistency. If a certain service provider stops working, then you don't have your server anymore, and the link pointing to your asset is actually dead, and you cannot do anything about it on the blockchain because the record is still there. If you think about the other opportunity, like storing the data directly on the chain, you can unfortunately run into huge costs of actually storing data on chain. For example, for Ethereum network, to what I researched last time was that 1 megabyte of data to store on Ethereum was around $55,000, which is definitely not a solution for an art itself. And rather than storing the data on the chain, you would prefer to link the content to the address somewhere and store the original data off chain, but the pointer inside the NFTs. Therefore, you want to have not a traditional web link where the address is, but rather to have a content-based addressing, which is IPFS. And I believe many of you already have heard these sessions beforehand, which were explaining how a PFS works in more details, and I will dive deep during this session. Also, the off-chain storage could be persistent and immutable. Therefore, by using IPFS and Filecoin together, you can ensure that the storage, the item which you were uploading for an NFT will be stored permanently till the lifetime of an NFT you have created. So thinking and talking about the CID, which is the main content identifier within an NFT, it's a label which is used to point to material on IPFS. I will not dive deeper, but just as a reminder, CID generally doesn't indicate where the content is stored, but it's providing a unique fingerprint to the content inside of an item. Therefore, when you search for a CID inside IPFS network, you will automatically see all the locations where the file is stored, and you can retrieve it from either the closest or the fastest server to respond. And the benefits of CIDs for storage are obviously the unique fingerprint, which allows you to retrieve the data regardless of knowing or not knowing where it's located. It's short, also regardless of the size, which helps with the costs of storing something on the network. And it can be stored and sent over the network in a compact binary form. In the very last CID line, which you can see, is exactly one of the simple CIDs which you can retrieve over IPFS. And it's actually always the same length and the same usability and functionality for any use case. I will put this link later on, or we'll share a presentation with you for you to play with CIDs, but essentially CID has also the gateway to see it in the browser. So once you have a CID, it's not mandatory for you to always have an IPFS node running for you on the background. You can also see it through the gateway on the browser and use a standard HTTPS link to actually view it without a complexity of running some nodes and blockchain on your own. Then let's speak about the metadata. Metadata for a CID is essentially details of what content is being stored. Typically for NFT, you want to store a JSON file with some description inside of it. And here's an example with name, description, and image being stored on IPFS, which is attached to your standardized token as an NFT on the blockchain. So typically a person would first want to use standard schemas to define an NFT, such as ERC721 or ERC1155 would be a good starting point. But if you're developing your own NFT collection, you may want to expand these standards further for your personal use cases, for example, to enable ticketing or some other functionality which you may come up with. Last but not least, the NFT is enabled and managed by the smart contracts. You run an NFT to you run a smart contract to create an NFT on the blockchain. You use it for minting, transferring, and managing. And there are two types of smart contracts which could be used within an NFT. It's either for managing NFT externally, or there also could be smart contracts inbuilt inside an NFT, which will allow some new functionalities and enable owners who have a certain NFT to do tasks which were not possible for them to do beforehand, such as, for example, management, voting, or, for example, it will open for them a door to a ticket or to a gallery, which could be a great functionality. So the next step, I'm watching on my time, we are still good to go. Actually, minting an NFT is super easy and super fast. I will show some slides with the code, sorry, and bear with me for that. But as opposed to the image you see right now, the level of excitement, which is very short when you start working on an NFT. In reality, it's only within 2 minutes you can already create an NFT, and there is no hard technology which is standing behind that will be a roadblock for you to develop your own NFT. In order to create an NFT, there is a really good tutorial with Minty, which you can find on IPFS documentation. But generally, in order to create an NFT, you first need to have an object with details which you want to mint as an asset. Here, for example, I want to mint an interplanetary travel ticket. And then I install and deploy the Minty. The documentation tutorials will again be available for you after the session, but generally there are only few lines of code which you need to use, and then you need to deploy a local environment which will replicate the blockchain, and essentially then you call a function to mint an NFT, and it will be recorded on the blockchain, and you will have an NFT being created. It's actually as simple as that, and there is no fear that should be coming from your side that it's a complicated tool. There are so many tutorials available online, and we encourage you to play around with it to see that actually it's nothing complicated. Also, there is a lot of blockchains which allow you to use a testnet, so there will be no complexity at all to also play with it on the testnet first, then before coming on the real mainnets of different blockchains. So for the last session, let's talk about what are the existing and what are the opportunities for the NFT space. There are already existing a lot of different projects like different digital collectibles, NFT marketplaces, NFT games, virtual spaces, and NFT domain names. And this all is booming right now, but I personally believe there is way more available for people in the NFT development world, that it's not only this which will be the main use cases in the upcoming future. So this part is solely for the purpose to inspire you to build your exciting projects during the hackathon, and feel free to use either any of the use cases which I show right now, or generally think of that as a more of opportunity to come up with a unique idea. Most of these are not yet fully realized or not realized at all, but I believe that's where the future of the NFTs will be heading. Let's touch up on a few of these elements. I believe a lot in NFTs as a replication of a physical object or a replication of a contract which was signed in physical world, and therefore all the legal field and document digitalization will be having a great opportunity to be realized as an NFT technology. For example, NFT could replicate the real estate documentation, it will replicate the ownership of a house, or it will be a replication or representation of your insurance, where a smart contract could play a role of a validator. And essentially, if you have insured for your flight delays and the flight got delayed and that's available information online, you'll be automatically paid and reimbursed for these delays. So it will be a completely automated system of insuring and healthcare systems, which is awesome. And I believe that's the future. I also see a lot of potential for intellectual property rights. There is much to do still with understanding how we lend an NFT, how we share an NFT, and how it could be represented as a legal document in the real world. But there is more and more standards which are coming up, and people start to adopt the NFTs as their main source of knowledge or information. Therefore, creating an NFT as a source of digital proof would have a more adoption. And we already have this DocuSign where you can have a digital signature. I don't think there is many more steps needed to have fully digital documents as NFT on the market being available as a final solution for a user. Some of the gaming use cases which I find particular interest in, and I personally play a bit, so there is a lot more use cases also coming to the gaming industry or to the metaverse industry. I see a lot of opportunities for the NFTs to become the source of cross-platform exchange and storage, where it will essentially decouple the progress of your particular story, game, metaverse, or something else, and you will have it stored on blockchain and could be used on any tool, on any computer, on any phone, becoming such an ultimate storage of information about something you're doing within the digital world. There are also opportunities for doing global achievements minting, where you see some simpler implications, but representing some awards or results. This could be just a great tool to showcase. And minting as an in-game create opportunity is quite a opportunity right now for pay-to-win games, where minting could become a new layer of upgrading certain functionality. And as well, minting generally of an NFT of an object within a game can also open a huge opportunity for creating marketplaces for the games which were not originally defined to have a marketplace, where blockchain could serve as a marketplace, and exchange of a certain NFTs will enable you to have in-game storage transactions. What are the available tools? I would not spend much time on that from a perspective that there was already a session from Protocol Labs on which tools are available for you. But generally, I would say when you're working with an NFT, you want to start with a storage helper. This is to simplify your deal making and avoid playing with setting up your IPFS and Filecoin nodes, where the storage providers or storage helpers such as NFT, Estuary, Textile will help you to do the deals with IPFS and Filecoin in a single call. You have seen maybe these slides already or similar, but I encourage you to look at the NFT storage and Web3.storage to manage your NFTs. And by that, you will ensure that you are storing the data which will be available for the lifetime of an NFT. And secondly, it will be also very easy to call through an API to use these tools without a hassle. Well, an additional benefit is that both NFT.storage and Web3.storage provides you with a 3 terabyte of data to be used and to be stored. Therefore, any starting a project on the hackathon essentially has the endless data to tinker during the hackathon, and we are more than welcome to help you setting those up, but it's essentially as easy as few clicks on the browser and you have your API key, which you can call from Web3 storage with and essentially connect to the IPFS and Filecoin. Just to end this topic, I would say that the blockchain is the Louvre, as quoting one of the authors on the Twitter. We are trying with an NFT to capture the value of the internet, and there is so much to capture and so much to link in the digital and physical world that there are endless opportunities for NFTs, and we right now see only a fraction of those already available on the market. So that was Konstantin from Protocol Labs, and I'm more than happy to answer all your questions right now in the chat or later on, and thank you all for your attention.
Konstantin, thank you. I think you do have a question, and if you want to address it now.
Mm-hmm.
So
I have one question which I see on the chat. Yeah. Can you explain more on renting NFT and monetizing it after rent period elapses? Then the digital asset goes back to the owner. Is it really possible? I definitely feel that it's really possible. And as I was explaining with smart contracts which are inbuilt in NFT, they could be sort of validator, which will automatically transfer an NFT after a certain time elapses, which was defined by a contract. It could also be in a more complicated system, and that's right now being developed, where you will have an intermediate lender who can use your NFT, but you will be still remaining as its owner. So that is an open topic right now, and there is a lot of awesome development happening in the Web3 world. Therefore, I'm encouraging you to actually have a look at what's happening and give a shot by maybe trying to build your own protocol, which could be used by many other people, and you'll become one of the fundamentals of the NFT world. Thank you.
Thank you, Konstantin. I don't know if there are any other questions on the NFT topic.
I think there are some links which will be available for you all the time, and I will be happy to give you the stage, Carlos.